So this from Mashable.com. Zack Snyder's future at Warner Brothers DC Movies. Limited at best, dunzo at worst. Who uses the word dunzo? Josh Dickey. The writer of this article is Josh Dickey. He uses the word dunzo. So you guys didn't know, Zack Snyder was brought on to kind of helm the DC movies based on his experience with comic book films, his success with 300, and not so much financially with Watchmen, but Watchmen did definitely earn some, I guess, some legs. It's kind of a cult movie now. I mean, as far as adaptations go, I personally think that Snyder did that film, and I realize some of you may disagree with me, but Watchmen was supposed to be unfilmable. And Zack Snyder made as faithful a representation I think as could have been made. Not only that, but the twist at the end, I thought they tweaked it. Just in case you haven't seen this or read the book, they tweaked the ending, like the third act reveal for the film, and I thought it made a lot more sense. It tied all the characters together. I thought it was really well done. And I remember when he took over, and I'd have debates at the local comic shop I had at the time. People were very excited because they loved 300, they loved Watchmen, they loved, I don't think anybody really loved Sucker Punch. But I was like this, I didn't like it. I was arguing with them. Because I felt that while Snyder was and is a great filmmaker, I did not think that he had the right vision for something like Superman. Because every one of his films had this dark tone, had this cynical tone to it. I mean, it basically be like, let's make Superman, let's let David Fincher direct it. You don't. It's the sensibilities clash. What the person brings to the table and what the project needs are different. So, fast forward a few years, and there's a lot of complaining about the dark direction and the muddle-headedness of the DC properties film-wise. And here we are. And like I said, I wish Zack Snyder the best. I think he's a talented filmmaker, and my heart breaks for the tragedy that he's endured this year. So this is not on him personally, and professionally, I hope he does really well both ways. But this is in regard to his work with the DC films. And there's a lot of DC films that I feel like Zack Snyder will be really, really good for. Dark tone obviously works a lot better with Batman. And I'm going to put this up in the air, and I want to see who agrees with me. Zack Snyder directing Lobo with concept art by Simon Bisley. I mean, can you envision that film? Boy. See, I think he'd be good for stuff like that. I mean, there's a ton of things that he could do well. Let's get into the article here. Article states, Zack Snyder, primary engineer of the DC Comics movie universe since Man of Steel, whose creative vision has been polarizing to say the least, will take a significantly smaller role with the franchise going forward, as will his wife, producer Deborah Snyder, Mashable has learned. The Snyders left Justice League as director and producer in May, saying they needed time to grieve for their 20-year-old daughter who had died by suicide 2 months before. Multiple sources with knowledge of Warner Brothers' plans say that as the DC Extended Universe moves forward, the Snyders will no longer have anything like the level of creative influence that got the franchise to this point. For its part, Warner strongly denied the notion that the Snyders would no longer be actively involved in creative decision-making. Toby Emmerich, Warner Brothers Picture Group president and chief content officer, said in a statement that the Snyders would maintain a role. The Snyders remain an important part of the Warner Brothers family and are actively involved in several upcoming DC pictures, including their continued creative input on Justice League. We are excited about our partnership and look forward to our continued collaboration. That is intentionally vague. Like I said, you have politicians and then you have Hollywood executives. It's just like the same type of doublespeak. So, indeed, Zack and Deborah will be getting respective directing and producing credits on Justice League. They oversaw the bulk of production, after all. And it's still possible that they'll carry executive producer or other types of credits for future DC films. But that involvement will be at a distance, multiple sources say. And for the time being, the two are spending time with family while figuring out their next move, which is understood to include Warner Brothers films not within the DCEU. While the Snyders' phasing out may not come entirely as a surprise, it's sure to send a shockwave through DC fandom. I don't think so. I think that's overspeak. Which fiercely supported Snyder's films in the face of harsh critical reception. And struggles with the Snyders were not entirely due to the increasingly hostile critical reactions to their films, Batman v Superman and Suicide Squad in particular. Warner Brothers brass was becoming increasingly concerned with their tendency to drive up budgets. He does do that really, really badly. And have been anxious for a freshened creative direction that manifested in Wonder Woman, on which the Snyders were producers. And I could definitely see that in Wonder Woman's look. Zack Snyder has been, the look of the film, not the character's look, but Zack Snyder has been heavily involved in all of DC movies to date. He directed Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, and was an executive producer on Suicide Squad. And future films like Aquaman, Suicide Squad 2, and The Flash, Flashpoint, there's something we haven't talked about yet that we need to talk about, still carry his name in producing roles. His creative imprint, a dark metallic visual style, and grim, brooding, muscular, emo sensibility were all over the DCEU and will surely linger into future films. But the post-Snyder's regime is widely expected to make the films in a more hopeful, colorful, comic book-inflected direction, like what we saw work so well with Wonder Woman. Yes, it's all about who you get to helm it. The creatives the matching sensibilities cannot be overstated, and the importance of them. At the forefront of that effort is Jeff Johns, who swiftly ascended from the comic book world to become president and chief creative officer at Warner's DC division last year, reporting to Diane Nelson, president of DC Entertainment. His close creative partner and secret weapon will be Joss Whedon, who stepped in for the departing Snyders to finish Justice League. As Variety first reported on Monday, extensive reshoots are underway on that film, and more than the usual regularly scheduled pickup shots. Which, if you remember, was what they were reporting is all it was. It's just a couple little scenes here and there. It's nothing big. Don't worry. Shh. Don't ask questions. Sources confirm that while Snyder's action sequences are usable, a wide swath of story and dialogue are being redone. So guys, Justice League is Rogue One all over again. Whedon also has Batgirl on the DC slate, which is expected to proceed on schedule, but Whedon, who never quite got the credit he deserved as a key architect of Marvel's cinematic universe alongside Kevin Feige after Avengers Age of Ultron, will be a major part of WB's creative team in the future. To some, the same can possibly be said for Aquaman director James Wan and Matt Reeves, the War of the Planet of the Apes director who is taking over the directing chair from Ben Affleck on the planned Batman movie. It's early yet, but Reeves' reputation after Apes could not be more sterling. His world-building chops are clearly first-rate, and the studio will throw its support to him. Yes, he was a good choice. Another person whose involvement is now in question, David Ayer, the Suicide Squad helmer, who is still listed as the director of the Harley Quinn-led spinoff Gotham City Sirens, which I still can't figure out if anyone is excited for. I'm not. I don't like David Ayer. I just don't. I don't like his work. That film was not featured in Warner Brothers' Comic-Con sizzle reel of 9 upcoming DC movies last weekend, and sources say Ayers won't ultimately be part of their plans. Ayers' rep flatly denied that he's off the project, saying it's still in development and that the script is not yet complete. Hopefully they're still putting their toe in the water to see if anybody actually wants to see it. I'm going to do a video soon of The Glut and how I think this is not boding well for the comic book film industry. But there are other signs that he's moving on. Ayers seemed to be signaling his discontent with discontent with his WBDC experience at his Comic-Con panel on Thursday for Bright, the fantasy buddy cop film that Netflix gave him $90 million to make. The Alien Nation remake. I don't think people realize the situation filmmakers face, he said, stressing that Netflix didn't intervene in his process. They just let him run with it. Bright isn't like some bullshit standard issue studio PG-13 movie. I was able to do some real shit here, said Ayers, he's so street. Oh, Ayer, you're so street. Who has directed exactly one PG-13 movie in his career, Suicide Squad. Now, in all fairness, Ayer could very well have been talking about any PG-13 film or what any filmmakers go through dealing with a studio demanding a PG-13 movie. The director of the RoboCop remake he could have been referencing that guy. He wasn't necessarily referencing himself. And note that he put like a Harley Quinn thing on his Twitter account, kind of hinting cryptically that maybe he's still on it. So I'm not going to make up stuff about David Ayer. I don't like his movies. I don't like his style. But, I'm not going to dog the guy. Suicide Squad did very well, even though I thought it was a hot mess. It was enjoyable. Patty Jenkins, on the other hand, is definitely in the Insiders Club, as if there will be any doubt of that, given that Wonder Woman is now the DCEU's most successful film. At the very first, which I predicted it very well might be in my trailer talk review, way back in the day. So wrapping up on the Snyders, it says the Snyders are certainly not without their fans. Obviously, they're very good. Their exit will be a particular blow to the faction of DC Comics fandom that supported them fiercely, loyally, and vocally against critics, and that includes the people they've worked with. One of them, Ray Fisher, who plays Cyborg in Justice League, wore an I Heart ZS for Zack Snyder t-shirt to the films panel at Comic-Con, which Zack Snyder, who is always at Comic-Con championing his films, did not attend. It was perhaps well known to Fisher, a final Comic-Con tribute at the end of that era, end of an era that has defined modern superhero movies, like it or not. Okay, so my take on this. Here's the money's worth. My take on this. I don't think so. I really don't. I think that many people appreciate what Zack Snyder has done, but a lot of the support that I've seen isn't so much for Snyder as it is DC guys versus Marvel guys. I enjoyed Batman v Superman. I own a copy of it. I got the extended cut, and it was a much better film. If you've not seen the extended cut, it is a much better film. It makes a lot more sense. But they just tried to throw too much into it. They really did. And I understand the temptation. I understand them falling for that. But if Justice League was such a great movie, you would not be spending upwards of, I bet, $25 to $50 million reshooting the damn thing. And I love Snyder. This, like I said, there's not a diss against Snyder, but this overspeak that's out there is just killing me. I don't know. We'll see. I feel like I want to talk about that a little bit later, because I feel like Justice League is in a Rogue One situation where they're probably refilming at least a third of it, and I have a bad feeling that while Warner is wanting to get that Rogue One perfection, which Disney got very lucky and they nailed it out, I don't feel like Justice League is going to hit it. I'm not saying it's going to be bad, but I feel like Justice League is probably going to be Suicide Squad all over the place. Hopefully I'm wrong. Post your comments down below. Let me know what you think on this. Is Justice League going to be a mess? Is Joss Whedon going to clean it up? Zack Snyder and Joss Whedon are both extraordinarily talented people. They're really good filmmakers. And I think that I don't think that any movie with the two of them on it is going to be a bomb, at least as far as the watching experience goes. Now, the level of money they've probably spent on this thing, it will be lucky. Warner Brothers will be lucky if they make a dime on this movie at this point. And I'm not kidding. We'll get into box office stuff later, but just remember, the budget for this film that Snyder probably spent was already probably at the $250 million, $300 million mark. So they are going to be pumping in another $50 million or so. And then the marketing for this film, I'm going to guesstimate, and I'll leave it here, but I'm going to guesstimate that they will have to make approximately $1 to $1.1 billion to break even. To break even. Now that may be a little high. I may find out that I am wrong on the numbers, but I don't think I am. They easily spent that much for Batman v Superman, and this is a bigger film.